Hello and welcome to the Eamon on Track show, episode 15. Today, I have brought on my co-host, Jody Simpson.
Hello.
Today, the first time I've actually suggested an album, and it is Green Day's Insomniac.
Mm-hmm.
I picked this album because it's the first album I actually listened to front to back, and it's one of my favorite albums ever.
Really?
Yeah, I think... it's hard to call this album underrated, but I think it gets very overshadowed by Dookie specifically, and I think that's a huge travesty because this album is really good. And
I would agree. Yeah. The album, the main issue with this album is, obviously this is the follow-up. So with the fact that they hit their punk, they didn't really get into, they were a punk band, but they kind of got into the pop genre by accident.
And
I think everybody expected the next album to be very poppy, and it's not.
But it's not.
This is a punk album for sure. Like, there's no.
I almost call it like hardcore.
I don't know if I'd go that route, but we also come from different generations, so
yeah,
maybe things. This is definitely not the most hardcore punk I've ever heard, but this is a great punk album.
Yeah, it's
like anybody who's a fan of the genre would definitely be cool with it. I find it interesting that this is the first album that would come to your mind. I think
the album I listened to front to back. So
yeah, I think front to back, I think this is a better album than Dookie for sure.
I agree.
But I think Dookie has some great tracks
for
on
sure.
It,
like I plan on talking about what I consider the classic era of Green Day, all of those albums at some point on this show. So
yeah, and they do have a great catalog. And it unfortunately it's overshadowed by the pop stuff, right? So
Dookie, Time of Your Life.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that, but overall, I was actually surprised when you picked this album because this is actually probably my favorite Green Day album. But I also grew up with more punk, so it was a little different. But yeah, I can understand why people don't really give this the love that it deserves. Just because
really does deserve it.
If you ask people what Green Day is, at that
it's
point
not,
in time,
it's not
they're like, oh, they're a pop band. It's like, well, no, they're not really a pop
not
band.
really. Like it's complicated.
It is very.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get on to this album cover.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and I think this is the first thing that strays people away. Because if you look at Dookie, Dookie is a very fun album cover. Like it's very cartoony, very very pop, I guess is a good way to say it.
This gets the tone very well in the sense that it's deranged.
This is a dark album, and this album cover definitely portrays that. I think
you got the fire in the background, you got the
absolutely, and you have all these little tiny little things in this album. When you really look at it, there's a lot going on this album cover. But people aren't really seeing that, right? They kind of glance at it and go, yeah, okay, no. Where I don't think it's a great album cover, quite honestly. I think they probably could have come up with something better, but I'm sure this has much more meaning to them than it does to us, right? So
a bit of information on this album. It's called the name of this artwork is God Told Me to Skin You Alive, and it's by Winston Smith, who was a collage artist who I believe did work for the Dead Kennedys.
Yes. And also, who was the other one? He did the Dead Kennedys album. What is it? Did I Kill Children? No, Plastic Surgery Disasters.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So did that, and then he also did what was the other one? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a cool album cover. Like, it's great art, but I just don't know if it totally. It's not a good one to sell an album. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah,
like if you're, obviously, I don't know. I think maybe I have a little bit more experience in the going through the CD rack when I was a teenager.
It doesn't help that the CD version of this album only shows the center of this. Like,
it's not. It's cropped, unfortunately,
Yeah.
on the CD, whereas the LP is actually you get to see pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is it's a great piece of art. Like, could be wrong, but I just don't know if it's the best way to sell this album.
The interesting thing
I found it does kind of match the album.
Yeah. Interesting thing I found is that when Billy Joe Armstrong asked Winston Smith how he was able to make such intricate pieces in short times, Smith answered, "It's easy for me. I'm an insomniac." And that's where the name of this album comes from.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So,
see, that's what I like coming on your show, Eamon. I learn things.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with Armitage Shanks. Now, I think this is a really great opener. An opener should set the tone for the entire album, and I think this one does it really well.
It does. You have those kind of hard beats going on, but you also have the very punky guitar.
Yeah.
Which I think really does help you introduce you to what you're about to experience. Like this album, the actual listen through of this entire album is like 33 minutes. Like
it's a really quick
not
album.
a long album. So it's one of those things like, this is an episode of Star Trek, like not even actually episodes of Star Trek are long.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. So TV show with commercials. Like
actually,
how long this album?
It was their shortest album for a while until Father of All Motherfuckers took it over in 2019. I think is when that album released.
Yeah, which I can't say I'm a fan of that album, quite honestly.
No, it's garbage.
But like it's a quick. It's one of those albums that I find, and I think you probably are in the same mindset. Is when you start with this track. You just want to keep going.
Like,
it's one of those things that it almost in a way is telling a story.
I'm listening to the album and like 15 minutes have gone by and I'm like, I didn't even notice. And
because I know it's kind of bad to say, but some of the tracks actually do kind of mesh with themselves. So like you kind of go from one to another and the transition is so easy that
similar.
Half the time you don't even notice it doesn't register.
I can understand. I definitely think that is the biggest weakness of this album is that you don't get
there's a lot of the same.
Yeah.
A lot of the same. Yeah. But overall, I think it's a great
album
starter for sure. I agree with you.
One of the things I really like about this album is the lyrics of it. I very much relate to it.
Very good lyrics. Yeah. I do like them.
It's just about how, Billy Joe Armstrong is basically just talking about how he's kind of a nervous, person stuck in his mind, and he doesn't really know what to do. Yeah.
And that's it's that really does set the nature of the album. Like when you start this album, you kind of have a sense of that. Like as you're listening through this album, you kind of have that angst. You know what I mean? Like it's
I think
and that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, but it is probably one of my favorite albums to go all the way through.
Oh yeah.
There's not really a track that I want to skip on this album.
No, I agree.
There are some that are definitely weaker than others, but
I get that, right?
But, and there's some that are absolute stars, like 86, for instance, is a fantastic track. But
Panic Song I'll get to later.
Very good as well. Yeah. So but either way, I agree with you. I think this is a great way to start the album.
Something I want to talk about too is that I feel like the instruments excel so well for a 3-piece band on this album. The drums specifically, I think, really excel in this.
The drums are the winner here, for sure. Especially on a lot of the tracks. There's a couple tracks where the guitar is really the focal,
and some where the bass is really the focal.
Yeah, there is a couple bass ones as well, but the drums I think are the ones that stand out for most of the tracks on this album. Like the drums are fantastic, very good.
It's funny we were talking about this. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, Green Day is like basically this glorified boy band almost. It's like, no, this album is depressed.
Yeah, but you can't judge people for that because that's kind of how they were marketed.
Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean? Like, especially with Dookie,
funny is all.
Like if you listen to this, if you played this and didn't tell anybody what it was and they weren't familiar with the album, they would definitely not say this is Green Day.
This is a Green Day album. No, definitely not.
Yeah. Now the only thing that gives it away is obviously Billy, but
Billy,
you know, he does have a very distinct voice.
Maybe maybe Mike's bass playing is very.
Yeah, Mike definitely has his own flavor as well, so it's very possible. But I still think it's one of those albums that's definitely it's I kind of consider the Dookie and this album as kind of like the black and white albums. You know what I mean? Like it's like Dookie's like the white album that like you know is there's some cheery stuff on there, but for the most part it's at least
I definitely feel like they're very much sister albums.
Yeah, and then you have this album, which is more of the dark album. This is the the bad side of things.
Oh yeah. So, but all right, I think unless you have any other points.
Nope, not at all. No, that's a great album. Great.
So let's talk about Brat. So this song is about waiting for your parents to die so you can collect life insurance.
That would be a Brat if I ever heard of one.
But, it sure would be.
I like the melody of this song, but I can't say I like the lyrics. It's decent. I understand why people like the song. Absolutely, but I feel the lyrics are a little weak on this one.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think that I know it's weird to say about the song with this subject matter, but this is one of the most fun songs on the album.
It is, and I think maybe that's what kind of bugs me about this song a little bit is because when you look at this song compared to all the other tracks on this album, this is kind of the happy song in a way.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't be, but
it really shouldn't be. It's about yeah.
So it is what it is, but that's the nice thing about music. We can all have different tastes, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like the I agree with you the way that the melody goes it's very bouncy almost, I guess is the word
this is the pop song of this album. And it shouldn't be.
Okay, the pop song.
The pop song, yeah. Well, and I use that term very loosely. But it just, to me, it's if I had to kick one song off this album, this would be the song.
That's interesting. I'll actually mention later. There's a song that I would pick that for probably.
Oh, I'm interested to hear that when it happens.
Yeah. I think that this is a good song. Not necessarily one that comes to mind first when I think of this album, though.
No, exactly. Yeah. I don't think it's a terrible song.
Although I do find that this is the song that gets stuck in my head after I've listened to it.
This is definitely the earworm song for sure. Yeah. I think that's mostly due to the melody though.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to Stuck With Me.
I like this track.
I really like this track. This is very melodic.
Yeah, and it's one of those kind of trippy tracks in a way as well, like where you kind of just mellow out a bit while you're listening to it.
Yeah.
It's just everything about this song I actually like. It's a little bit meaty, which I like, and on top of that, the lyrics are pretty sweet. So overall, this is I wouldn't say this is the best song in the album, but it's definitely top 3.
This isn't the best song of the album. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, but I think it's still top 3.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
I like the way that it kind of has like this. They're able to go from like the riff of the chorus, like the guitar chorus, to this like.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah. The build up afterwards at the beginning of the verse where they kind of do like it really works really well.
Yeah,
and this song.
It's got good flow.
I'm gonna keep bringing up the dark subject matter, but this song is about
the whole album's dark though, so like you can't avoid that.
Yeah. This song is about basically someone who's leeching off of the like the narrator. Basically, yeah.
No, overall, there's nothing bad I can say about this song. I really like it. It's one of the tracks that I look forward to while I'm listening to this album. When I hit it, I'm like very happy about it, and as I said, probably top 3. On the album, but I still think the whole album is worth listening to. Like it's still a great album.
Something I want to ask you about is that because I find this quite interesting. This was a single.
Was it really? I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I knew the other one was, which we'll get to shortly. But yeah, no, I didn't know this was a single. It kind of makes sense that it's a single. Though.
It kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that though.
Yeah,
so that's interesting to learn. But yeah, no, I can understand why this would be picked as a single.
I can see that. Yeah, but also it's kind of hard with this album. It's
you don't have a lot of selection for singles on this album.
No,
because the whole point of a single is to realistically, celebrate
market an album.
Yeah, market an album, and it's hard to market an album with the subject matter.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It'd be like 9 Inch Nails trying to market with using Closer as the single.
Yeah, pretty much.
They can, but it's it might not be your best option for that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, 9 Inch Nails has songs like Hurt, I feel like are almost more marketable, but
well, Hurt definitely would be one of the more marketable ones, I think, yeah.
Anyway.
That's for another day.
Yeah.
On Eamon on Track.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about Geek Stink Breath.
I just love the name of this
song. I know.
It's great.
Great.
Lyrically, I wouldn't say it's one of the stronger ones.
I agree.
But I think again the music behind it is fantastic.
So, kids, if you ever need a reason not to do meth,
this
just listen to this song.
Yeah, this is your anti-meth song right here. But
I love the way that the melody just speeds up and slows down. How
and I think it's supposed to be trying to representing essentially your mind going nuts, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's trying to do. And I think it really does a good job of that. Like it's again, as I said, it's not one of my favorite tracks on this album, but I love the name of it, and I think the subject matter is something you don't hear a lot of in music, so that's I guess that's a win. But yeah, no, the way that the speed, the tempo, how it kind of keeps going from one area to the other, it's very unnerving. And I think that's
I remember hearing almost the beat of this album being described as a heartbeat, and how
this song maybe yeah I wouldn't say all of it, but yeah, no, it's I can understand that, but yeah, no, the tempo is probably the winner here on this one, because just as you're getting used to it, it goes completely either faster or slower depending on what you're doing. So yeah. So with that, yeah, I think it's still it's a good addition to the album, but definitely not in my top 3.
Let me check about this one again, because I think no, it wasn't. No, this was also a single.
You're kidding me. This was a single?
This was the first single, actually.
Wow. They were really hard.
I know.
Like, if you're going to use this as your first single, that is a hard
sell. A weird sell. Yeah.
That's a hard sell, yeah. And again, later on down the line, we have another song that definitely was the single.
Yeah.
And a song that I think that's the only song that people really know on this album.
Yeah. Like, and anytime there's ever like a Green Day compilation, this is that's the only song that shows up from Insomniac.
Brain Stew, we'll get to that. We're both talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really, Billy Joe Armstrong definitely during this period specifically, I think had a penchant for slurring his lyrics.
Yes.
And I think that really works on this album.
For this particular track, it works really well.
This particular track,
it works really well. I can't really think of any of the tracks that were degraded because of that. I think he wanted to make an album because he was getting chastised for being a pop artist at this point. So
that's definitely one of the big themes on this album.
Yeah, so they wanted to get back to their roots because, going back to their hometown and all that, I'm sure they were probably, chastised quite a lot for.
We'll be talking about that. We got a couple songs on this.
Yeah, there's a couple songs that definitely clearly portray that, but yeah, no, overall, I think it's a decent song. It should definitely not be a single.
No,
so
definitely.
No idea who the marketing was on that.
Your premiere single either.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely this is not. I would take the other one as a premiere single over this.
Oh yeah, I would take
heartbeat.
Pretty much every song on this album as
definitely not the good
this
single.
One.
Yeah, this is not the single that you want to start.
No,
with. If you're trying to sell an album with that song, you're not going to sell a lot of albums.
Hey kids, you want to buy a song about meth?
Yeah, Yeah, come get your single. And I used to buy CD singles and LP singles and
I know
and all that because I'm that old. But you're much younger than me, Eamon. But
I'm privileged to not have to deal with that.
Yeah, but there was something nice about opening up a new vinyl, though. Yeah.
I
open it
buy
up.
vinyl.
You got the smell.
Yeah.
Or that new CD when you crack
of
that.
course.
Oh, that was good times.
Anyways, let's move on to No Pride.
I like this track.
I like this track. Yep.
Yeah, this is probably.
This is
definitely. I know it kind of sounds bad, but it's almost like one of their more positive tracks on this album, even though it really isn't.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I've always very much related to this song because I feel like this song is about how a lot of societal norms are stupid.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. This is the I'm mad at society song.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at what they make us do, kind of thing. Yeah. Which in some ways makes perfect sense, in other ways is kind of bad. But funny enough, though, every time I hear the song, I think it's a more positive song, even though it really isn't. But
why is
there's
that?
something about it? I don't know. It's got to be. I'm guessing it's the melody.
That's interesting. It's definitely a more upbeat melody of this album.
I'm guessing maybe it's just because of that, but it's always in the back of my mind. But if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's definitely not a positive song.
No, very much not positive.
But for some strange reason, this always is the song that makes me think that this is the positive song on this album.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm not totally sure why.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess it's just an interpretation thing, but what can you do?
I don't know. I particularly, this is one of the songs I think of lyrically, at least when it comes to this album, again, because I mentioned that. I feel like when I think of just all the stupid rules we have or certain people have, this is the song that comes to mind for me.
Well, and if you think about this song, if you put it in the context of now where we have a very PC focused generation and society in general, this song actually hits more closer to home now than it probably did 10-15 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
Which obviously this is from 95,
although I don't know, I think it would have hit close to home in a different way, maybe in terms
it definitely hit in 95 as well, because that was also a time when those type of things were happening as well. But we're kind of back in that again, and I think this song really resonates as a non-aging song, I guess is a good way to say it. Like a song where you don't go, oh well, that's not really relevant.
Some things I've learned from generations that some things are cyclical, and clearly that's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. But great song.
Yeah, great song. Anyways, I think that's good. I would say that this is one of the songs that blends in a little bit more on the album, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
that's to its disadvantage, but also to its advantage, because I feel like that just makes everything blend so smoothly when listening to it front to back.
The thing that's nice about this album, and especially for the guys that are as old as me, who I think I actually had this on cassette as well, and on a cassette you didn't
they would have had
the track skipping problem, right? Oh yeah, this was on cassette for sure.
Okay.
But with that, it's you don't have the ability to skip as quick as you do with like CDs and stuff like that, right? So people who really had to like just listen to this album all the way through, it was a treat. It really was a treat compared to a lot of albums, especially around that time period where you had a lot of pop stuff that, they would have 3 good songs in the album and then there would be filler. And, you'd have to go through all that filler. And
this is basically no filler.
No, there's only one song, and we've already talked about it, that I would consider to be the weak song on this album. But it's still not a song where I would go, let's skip it. Like it's still, I'll still listen to it. It's still decent enough, but it's probably the weakest one. But No Pride is definitely not a weak song. It's a good song.
No. All right, let's move on to Bab Zubalahu. So this is the song, at least from a musical standpoint, that if I had to remove a song, it would be this one.
The problem with this song is there's no focus. It's almost like this was just the jam session song that they just decided to put on the album.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it was it just feels like it's not done.
The singular riff just feels a little too repetitive for me.
Well, not only that, it goes a little long too. which is
this is one of the longest songs on the album, I believe.
Yeah, actually, it probably is. Yeah, because most of the songs of this album are pretty short.
Yeah,
but
most songs on this album don't even go 2 minutes.
No, 140, 150. Yeah. You get the occasional 230, but for the most part, there's not a lot. This is a very I like to call it the Blur 2 effect, where you have a song that's 2 minutes and 2 seconds. That's it. You're lucky if any of those songs go past that on this album.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think this if there's any song that I would class as being the unfinished song on this album, this is the one.
Now that's not to say anything of the lyrics, because I actually
the lyrics are great. I think the lyrics were well written. The accompaniment was the problem here.
I do want to talk about the lyrics here because they're really well written to me, because
they are.
It basically describes the anxiety that a lot of people feel, where we just feel like, I'm a fuck up, I'm a terrible person, and I just fucking hate myself.
Yeah, and it resonates with me. I'm a person who deals with anxiety, and it's one of those things that it definitely, the lyrics resonate with me. I love the lyrics. I just don't like the music that accompanies them.
I couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah, it's the weak one, man. It really is. Like, lyrically, I think it's probably one of the better lyrics on this album. It's definitely up there when it comes to lyrics, but I think the actual accompaniment is the biggest issue on this song. It feels like it was just patched together. Like, they're like, oh, we need one more song, okay, and they literally did a jam session, and that's what they released. Like, they didn't refine it. It doesn't feel finished, I guess is a good way to look at it.
All right, let's move on to 86. So remember how we were talking about them kind of getting hated by everybody?
Yep.
This is one of the 2 songs I'd say is about that, really.
Oh, absolutely. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the strongest songs on this album. Not to say that, most of them are pretty good, but
so to explain, to 86 in food terms is to take it off the menu.
Yes, to cancel.
So that's the idea here.
Yeah, it's to cancel.
Yeah. That word in that context has been ruined for me forever. Cancel. Anyways, this song is so passive aggressive in such an amazing way. I love it so much.
Yeah, and it works well for what it's supposed to be portraying. And to me, it's the star of the show, this album, in my opinion. With the exception, there is a couple others that I would say
that's interesting,
close, but I do like this song. This song is the song that when I start listening to the album, I'm looking forward to hearing this song. Like, this is, how when you have you have a couple of your own favorite kind of things, and of course that's always, everybody has their own ways on that. But this is the song for me that when I start this album, this is the song I associate with this album the most, because this is the one that I'm always looking forward to, and when I get there, I really like it, and it's good that way. But lyrically, I agree with you. This is definitely about it's definitely about this is basically about Dookie. It's the easiest way to say it.
Basically what happened was that their group basically outed them because they had like a hard rule about anybody who had any like success at all being you're not allowed to be here anymore, you got to get out. And so that's the kind of thing they're talking about in this song.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have much to say about it, quite honestly. I think the accompaniment good. The lyrics are fantastic. I think it tells the story that some people want to hear, especially people that are listening to this album. They want to hear that story. So it's interesting to hear it. So, well, at least the perspective of the story. You don't really get the story, but it's interesting.
Yeah. All right. And we get to one of my favorite songs, not only on this album, but of all time, Panic Song.
Now, this should have been a single. Was this a single?
No.
I think this should have been a single.
You think this would have been hilarious?
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious.
It would have been hilarious, but no, it wouldn't sell. No.
Sure. God, no.
But no.
Probably still would have sold better than Geeks Think Breath, though.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The fact that they had the gall to make that song a single and not this song.
And not this song. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's, I don't know. It just...
God, this album is just the musical embodiment of anxiety. I feel like.
And this is...
The bass really shines on this song, the way it kind of carries throughout the whole first half of the album, or the first half of the song, rather.
Yeah, and Mike is also the co-writer on this song as
well.
Like
it's one of the few songs he's ever actually written for one of these songs.
So I think it's a great song. It's I wouldn't say it's the top of my list, but I remember how I said there's a top 3.
Yeah,
this is probably one of those top 3.
Yeah,
I just like the song. Lyrically, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Little juvenile, but it's still, I think
that's interesting.
Well, I have a different perspective now. I wouldn't consider it juvenile 20 years ago, but now
that's fair.
Yeah,
maybe I'll consider it juvenile in 20 years.
Yeah, in 20 years, if we happen to have the ability to chat again about this, Eamon, maybe you'll see it differently. But
anyways,
but
I just think that the way it starts with the bass and it's just
Oh, sorry.
They have actually said they will never play the song live. It's too much of a strain on them. But
I would imagine, like, I'm certainly not a bassist. I'm not, a person who plays the drums. Like, the only thing I can play
it's hard.
A tiny bit of guitar and piano, but I can imagine it being a very hard song to play.
Yeah, it's painful at a certain point.
It's an aggressive song. It's and I think putting panic in the name definitely portrays how it runs.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to the song, it almost gives you those type of stress.
Yeah.
The stress.
I was going to describe that. I almost feel like this has like a Saving Private Ryan effect.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. I can understand. I understand where you're coming from. Obviously, different type of music, but it's got that. It's got the tone that makes you feel almost agitated in a way. I guess it's hard.
Yeah,
for me to
I don't know,
but
it's
one of those things that just listen to it and crank it in some headphones, and you'll probably experience the same thing that we.
You just have a minute and a half of this building up, and it builds up, and it builds up.
It just keeps climbing, and then all of a sudden, it just lets it
hear
out.
the guitar, and
it's almost like a yell.
Yeah.
Like it almost yells at you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then
it's a panic,
ready for a cheap escape.
Yeah.
And it just goes in and it just releases all of its anger.
Yeah.
And it's so fast. And then it just ends with, I want to jump out. I want to jump out. I want to jump out.
Yeah.
Just keep repeating it. And that's how I feel when I'm in, this stressful situation. I just keep repeating whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it ends with this amazing, like, just reverb of like this feedback.
Yeah.
And what's so beautiful about this, if you specifically listen to this on the vinyl, is that this ends side 1, so it just leaves you with that.
It leaves you with that.
Yeah. And I love that.
And
I'm sure that was a coincidence. I don't think they thought about that, but
you'd be amazed, because there's a lot of LPs that were like that, where they told a story on one side and then just kind of left you hanging. So I think that might have been done on purpose.
I mean, I think that would be the thing. I mainly say that because of the year, but yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, in '95, vinyl certainly wasn't the star of the show, but it was still fairly available, and a lot of people were still buying it. I was buying vinyl in '95, so it's but I wouldn't say everybody was. A lot of people wanted the CDs, and streaming was starting to come up, and stuff.
Anyways,
like that, so.
I don't really have much more I could say about this song.
I think it's a great song.
Go listen to it, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and if you want a true punk song, that's a good true punk song.
Yeah. All right. Next up, and starting at the B-side, let's talk about Stewart in the Avenue. I think that this is definitely a good song to juxtapose, like, calm down from the previous song.
Yeah, if they wanted to end the side without having any sort of problems, then they would have kept this one at the end. Because I agree with you. This is the mellow song, right? Like, this is the song that kind of brings you down from that, from the panic, I guess, is a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say lyrically this is a very strong song.
It's okay. It's just about
not a fan with the lyrics on this one, but
yeah,
but again, lyrics are subject to different people, so I get that.
Although I will always love the kind of chorus. Well, destiny is dead in the hands of bad luck. It might have made some sense, but now it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
That line always stays with me.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not saying they're terrible. I just don't think when you compare it to the lyrics of some of the other songs on this album, I wouldn't say that this is a very strong lyric. There are.
I think this is just about a breakup, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it anyway.
Yeah, that's what I get from it too.
Sometimes if you actually read the lyrics instead of just listening to the song, a lot of the times you will get the different meaning of it. But as far as I know, I don't think I've ever read the lyrics for this song, so I can't say 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's what I gathered from it anyway. It was a breakup song. But overall, solid. I don't regret listening to it.
Yeah, I think certainly not.
It's a good way to come down from the last song. But to me, we're on kind of a roller coaster of melody here. You know what I mean? Like it's, you go from Panic, which is just, an aggressive, hard song. And then you go from that to, this, and it's like, it's a 180. Like
I think that's a good thing.
Well, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying, if you're, we live in times where, these songs are now together, right? Where, Panic and this song is now together. And, if you're listening to the whole thing, on an LP, I think it made perfect sense. I think on this,
maybe not so much.
This might not have been where you should have put this on the album, I guess is where I'm coming from, but it's, I can understand why they did.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right. Time to talk about, well, I kind of put these two together, but really they put these two together for some reason. Always, like, it releases a single and they've always kind of lumped these songs together, but they're really two songs.
It is two songs, but I think for the single they wanted to kind of get the length a little bit more, maybe, because Brain Stew is a pretty quick song.
Because Jaded is basically the B-side of the single.
Yeah, it's they're literally the same song with opposite sides. Like it's. Oh, I just heard something weird.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's my mic stand. It's kind of shitty.
Okay, fair enough. Brain Stew I think is a great song. It's a good solid song. I think if you're gonna try to get anybody to listen to this album, this is the song you start them with.
So this is the one we were talking about where we're like, this is the single for this album.
This is the single that I know for the song. I thought
this was actually the final single, if you can believe it.
I thought this was the only single from this album. So
yeah,
this goes to show you what I knew. But but I've owned the album since '95. So
that doesn't shock me. This is the only one that anybody remembers. This is the only one that gets put in compilations from this album. That
Well, it's funny because I remember picking up this album. I was actually working at Sam the Record Man back then. And I remember buying the copy that came in. There was like, we got like 20 copies and I just put one aside. I don't think we were supposed to do that, but I did it anyway. And it was like just before, I might have my dates wrong, but I'm almost positive it was just before Halloween. But I can't remember when this album.
Let me check the release date on this.
I'm guessing it was October
10th, 1995.
Yeah. So there you go. But yeah, it's to me, I associate a lot of this album with Halloween, which is kind of odd, but I think it's just, obviously for that. There's nothing really that has anything to do with
I definitely associate this album with fall. Definitely.
With fall. Yeah. Well, I think it's good fall punk album. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, what can really be said about the most known song on this album? Like, it's like, there's not much to say, but we might as well try. Yeah, well, fair enough.
I think that this song is an amazing song. Like, it's a perfect representation of Insomnia.
Yeah. I think it meshes. I think it meshes the world that they were to the world that they wanted to be. And it's in a way, you can definitely feel the punk on it. It's definitely not a punkish song compared to the rest of them on this album.
It's very slow.
It's very slow, and with that, punk and slow are two things that don't normally go together. But it can go together, but it doesn't.
But I don't know. I just love
it's a good track. Like
chugging of it. I think that the guitar really excels on this album.
This is the star. Yeah. You know how I said earlier, the drums are most of this album's star. The guitar is the star of this song for sure.
Yeah.
Not that the drums were bad, but they don't stand out like the guitar does. Yeah.
And then during that breakdown, the breakdown, I can only describe the amazing sound of this as, weirdly enough, what comes to my mind is the sound of a creaky motel bed, almost.
I'm now going to associate. I totally get what you get, but I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
So now every time I think of this song, I'm now going to think of a creaky hotel bed. It's going to be your fault, Eamon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I totally get what you're saying on
that.
Like
but it's
got that
so chaotic.
Feel. Yeah.
It almost reminds me of a headache in a sense, which I get they were going through it, but something about me likes that somehow.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's a good beat song.
This is definitely my top 3 for this.
This is probably, and I hate to say it, but this is kind of the popish beat song on this album.
I can see that, even though it's about.
I'm not saying it's a pop song, but
I know.
But the beat is very reflective of a pop song.
I can see that.
Yeah, like it's
your
standard.
To be fair, the riff is just 24 and 6/2. So
yes, yeah, very standard. Yeah. There's not a lot going on here, but what they do great.
What they do with it is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the guitar is the star of the show.
Yeah.
I think it probably goes guitar, lyrics, then drums in this one. And bass is probably just below the guitar there.
That's interesting. I think you're kind of underrating the bass on this album because I love the bass on this.
I think the bass on the album, I kind of put guitar and bass together anyway. But it's they are two separate things, of course. But this song, I don't think the bass is the strong compared to
definitely not the song, but around the album itself.
The album itself is very bass heavy, which is great.
Mike Dirnt's bass playing, I think he's the best bass player in the world. I like his melodicness and the ability to combine that with the rhythm that perfectly backs up the guitar and drums while still being memorable at the same time. It's just so good to me.
Sure, I would pick him as the best bass player, but he's definitely royalty. Like he's definitely top 5 anyway.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple bases, but it's at the end of the day, it's still great bass. And I would dream to play as well as he could. So,
that's fair.
Regardless.
Yeah. But, so I think that if we're done with Brain Stew, we should kind of go to Jaded.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Jaded, kind of the reverse.
It's exactly that. I think that's almost why these songs were also paired together for a single. It's because they kind of reflect each other. Yeah,
they're kind of a mirror of each other.
The song is almost faster than Panic Song, which is kind of crazy.
It's close. Yeah. I don't know. I don't actually know what the BPM is on it, but I would say it's definitely in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I still think Panic is probably a little bit faster, at least in the one spot. But overall I agree with you though. It is definitely the song that really does accent this song. But it's one of those things that you just have to, you kind of, you listen to it and go, oh, okay, I get it. This is, in Star Trek terms, cause that's what I'm used to. This is the mirror universe of Brain Stew.
Yeah.
Where it's familiar, but it's also different.
Yeah.
Which is
frantic. Cool. It's blazing fast. And, we were talking about how Brain Stew is not. Oh,
sorry. That was me.
No. Brain Stew is kind of like not really a punk song. Jaded in a sense is almost the definition of a punk song.
It's definitely more punk than Brain Stew.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree with you at all on that. Is it the punkiest song on this album? I still think Panic probably gets that one.
Okay. That's fair.
But you know what? It's close. Like it's, if you're listing off what is really true punk songs on this album, to me, Jaded definitely does come up. as well as Panic, and we have another one as well near the end. But yeah, no, it's yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of funny, even though we're generationally different, we came to the same conclusion on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
which is quite interesting. So.
Yeah. Anyways,
I got nothing else to say about Jaded.
I got nothing else to say. Let's just move on to Westbound Side.
I like this one.
I do like this song
and
too.
And I'm not sure why I like it, because everything in this song, I hate to use the word mediocre, but it kind of is. Like it's very run of the mill, I guess.
I completely agree with you, actually. But something about me says that I shouldn't like this song as much as I do, but I do.
Yeah, like when you listen to it, you're thinking, it's there's nothing that stands out in the song. Like this is something.
Yeah,
like the lyrics. Yeah, the lyrics are good. The melody's good. Bass is decent. Guitar is good. Everything about this song is good, but it doesn't. Nothing stands out to me. This is the baseline for this album, in my opinion. Like this is where you say, I want the most ordinary of the songs on this album. This is the one.
Yeah. Actually, I'm shocked this wasn't a single. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. Come to think of it, yeah, this actually probably would have been a much better single than most of the stuff that they picked. Yeah, come to think of it. But I think lyrically, it's good. The song is good. Like
there's something just
wrong.
Most of
this so plain. I don't get it. I don't know why I feel it's plain, but it's plain.
If I might describe, most of this album feels very angry, and something about this song feels sad and very sincere in a way that touches me.
It feels very personal.
Yeah,
I guess is a good way to say it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it kind of doesn't hit me as hard as some of the other tracks on this album, because this album is, for 33 minutes, you get a lot of emotion in music. Like you get a lot of stuff going on. You get aggression, you get sadness, you get
loneliness.
Loneliness, yeah, very much so. So with this song, this doesn't do any of that stuff. I guess sad would probably be about the only thing
sad would be the best
you probably get out of this song, but it's a good track. I just don't know why I feel it's so mediocre. It's just, this is the baseline track for me. Like this is, how every album has, a couple songs where you're like, yeah, okay. This is the okay song.
Yeah, this is almost I almost think of it as the opposite way around, where Westbound, where it's like I feel like I shouldn't like this song as much as I do, but I just can't not love it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
All right, let's move on to.
Can't say much more about that.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Tightwad Hill. So this is definitely.
I'm very curious as to what you think on this song.
Okay, I definitely think this is one of the weaker songs on the album. I like it.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, this is the song that, as I'm listening to it, getting ready for this, I was thinking, I think this is the song that Eamon's probably not going to like the most. And I don't know why I came to that conclusion. I know a lot of the music that you listen to, so it's, we've discussed many times about music, so it's one of those things. But this is just. It's up there with the other song. What was it called?
This is one of your more favorite songs?
No. This is one of my least favorite songs, but it's still a good song. Like it's not terrible. And that's the funny thing about this album. Even what I consider as being a bad track is still good. Like it's like good is the lowest I can give on any of the tracks
pretty much
of this album.
The best song on here is just it's just good. You got a good album on your hand.
Yeah. When you can't think of a terrible track on the album, it's a good album. Like I think good is probably the lowest I can give any of the songs on these. They're all solid. It's just there's some that do shine much better.
Yeah.
This is not one of them. Lyrically, I think this goes back to Juvenile again. This is a bit of a Juvenile song to me.
This is about a drug addict, I think, that Billy was in like friends with or something like that, and he was like a piece of shit or something.
That's what I understand. Yeah, but you get the way the lyrics are written to me is very childish. And I don't know why I really feel that way, but I do. I don't know why, but it's still a good song. Like it's not terrible.
I almost get that from like lines like "burn in daylight." Like he's trying to imply that he's like a creature of the night vampire sort of thing.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's that type of thing that leads me to think, oh, well, I'm a 15-year-old who thinks I'm a goth and I pretend to be a vampire on weekends. Like that kind of thing. Like to me, that's what it hits when I hear the lyrics of this song. But fair. It's still a good song. Like it's not bad.
Yeah, no. It's just,
and that's the thing that pisses me off about this song, because I like to rag on stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't really rag on this album. Even the bad stuff is good. Like it's a great album. It's better than Dookie. I will fight to the death to people on that one.
Yeah, I will.
Because you hear a lot of people and they're like, Dookie is a fantastic album. It's the best album they ever did. And it's like, well, Nimrod, in my opinion, was still good. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was good, but
it wasn't as good as this. Insomnia is way better. But I think I think Nimrod is probably weaker than Dookie, but it's
that's interesting.
Well, I think so, but it's again, everybody has their own opinion. But yeah, and it pisses me off when I hear people say, "Oh, Dookie, best album they ever made." It's like, you have not even listened to the good stuff.
Yeah, have you even I'm pretty sure most people haven't even listened to Insomniac.
Well, if you ask people how many albums Green Day has, what do you think they're going to say?
Thinking about it for a second, about like 15-ish, 16.
Well, they have around that, but people only really know, like, they know American Idiot.
They know American Idiot. They know Dookie, and they might know Nimrod.
Nimrod, they probably know.
Yeah.
This album, I doubt.
No. Not Warning, not Kerplunk.
No, Kerplunk, definitely not. Yeah. And especially the newest stuff. No one. It's
nobody listens to it.
Yeah, the new stuff.
Shit. I'm sorry.
I know it's cliche to say, but the new stuff really isn't that great.
I know.
Like, they have a couple bangers, but
besides that,
the albums are not like this. Like, this album is solid.
This album is solid from front to back.
Like, if I could only buy one Green Day album, this would be
probably be this one.
Yeah, I like Dookie. I like a lot of the songs.
I love Dookie. It's a great album.
It's a good album, but if I had to pick one, this is the album I'd keep.
I can't disagree with that, man.
Yeah.
Let's go to Walking Contradiction. So this is the other song that's about kind of fuck everybody who turned their backs on us.
Yeah, this is the revenge song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
86, I think, is more about the scene. Walking Contradiction is more about the masses.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The population versus the clique, I guess, is a good way to say it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think that's probably why I like 86 a little bit more than this song.
Oh, really?
This is a great song.
I think I like this song more than 86.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I still think I prefer 86 over this song, but they're both great. Like, they're both great songs, very solid. I've never been a fan of, fuck the world songs. But this is a good one. Like, it's a good song. I understand where they're coming from. I think 86 portrays it better, in my opinion, I guess, lyrically. I think score wise, I think this song is better, musically. But lyrics wise, I think 86 is better.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I just like the cynicism again in the lyrics here.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. Oh no, and again, I'm not knocking it.
I don't know. Have you ever watched the video for this? Because it's actually
no,
pretty
I don't
hilarious.
think I have actually.
It's pretty good. So the band goes around a city inadvertently causing accidents, or like.
Oh, I have seen this.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really fucking funny.
Yeah,
it's just by the end of the video, there's like cars crashing into like an intersection.
It's like just chaos. It's almost like a movie set. Like, there's just cars everywhere.
It's so good.
And poles are falling down. And stuff like that. Yeah, no, I have seen this.
Piano.
It's been a long time though, so I'm probably when I'm done with you, I'm probably gonna go look at that again.
But I love it. And my only complaint about this song is that I really don't think this would have been a great closer. I think maybe Westbound Sign would have been a better closer.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I said earlier, where this is a song that is out of order. This is the song that doesn't make sense for me. Like, when you're thinking about Westbound, it's that song should be flipped with this one. But then you have it too close to 86. So
that's
I'm almost thinking maybe 86 should have been closer to the front, like maybe the second song in.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but either way, I'm not going to say no to it. It's a great song still. So,
anyways, it's time to get to the ratings. So, musically, I am going to give this a 9.5. I genuinely think this is one of the most consistent albums I've ever listened to.
9.5. You know what? I'm with you on that. I wouldn't say this is the absolute best musical album I've ever heard, but this is definitely top. So 9 and 5, I think, is very solid.
For lyrics, I'm going to give it a 7 because for every song that I think is really geniusly written, there are also songs that are just more basic.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that, but I think I'd probably go 8 on this. I think the lyrics are very strong on the majority of the songs on this album.
That's fair.
There's a couple that are definitely weak, but I don't think that should hinder it enough to go that far down. But
the pacing is a 10. It's one of the most consistent albums in general just to listen to. I can't give it anything else.
You know what? I'm with you on this, but I can't give it a 10. You know what? I'm going to give it a 9 for pacing. There are some spots and there are some tracks that are definitely questionable. Where
I respect that. We were talking about that. I understand that.
Yeah.
I just can't.
But it's still very good. Yeah. Like, it's still better than the majority of albums, especially the ones that were coming out at this time.
Oh yeah. For visuals, I'm going to give it a 9. I've always really liked this album cover.
The album cover, it depends on how you want to rate it. As for an album cover, I think it's a fantastic album cover. Is it an album cover that's going to sell albums? No.
I think to me it comes from an artistic perspective. Is how I rate
it. If you're rating it based on artistic perspective, I'm going to go with if we're just going artistic perspective, I would definitely do a 9 on it.
And
it's a beautiful album to look at.
Give like a 9. I think that this album has a rougher production that I prefer compared to Dookie, definitely. And Rob Cavallo was just magic with this band. He really knew how to. He was the producer for them up until like American Idiot, and he just knew this band. He understood how to work with them.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on this, but I'm gonna disagree in a good way. I think this is a 10. I think production wise, I think this is how you produce a punk album. This is up there with some of the great punk albums, and in my opinion, it's better than a lot of what would be considered the best punk albums when it comes to production.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Punk is definitely an album that can have a genre that can have shoddy production.
Oh, well, a lot of it is, and some of it's on purpose. But this is if I was going to set a gold standard for punk production, this would be what I would consider to be the textbook. Like this, this is what you should be trying to achieve.
Yes.
If you get to this point, you got a great album going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I look at it.
I can't disagree. All right. Before we leave today, we have to talk about our United Federation of Podcasts. Talk about the Super Mader Brothers podcast, which is
where Maders show up and others.
Hopefully, I would hope so. Kind of defeats the point of the show.
They do reality TV stuff mostly.
Yeah. They mainly do Big Brother, and
Survivor. They do. Yeah.
Got Hold Up. Great with
one of my favorites.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
Yeah, where basically they take a theme and then they
give three movies
and then they basically critique them and break them down, and it's a long watch, but it usually pays off. You discover a lot of good stuff from that.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Talk about Hellbound with Michael Chang and Alex Blackburnn. It's a really interesting horror podcast, and the production value on it is genuinely fantastic. Like,
yeah, they do a very good job on it.
Pretty good. Trivial debates. We just had the Marvel, the MCU episode.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I've been
Dad's on that one, so I think you'd be very interested.
I'm definitely not a stranger to that show. I've been on it many times competing.
Oh yes, that's the granddaddy of all this stuff, right?
That's kind of what started most of it, yeah. But there was also Star Trek stuff as well.
And then we got I can't find the logo for it here, but we got X-Rated, an X-Men podcast. And
he might have been changing the promo image, so it's possible.
Yeah,
there right now.
But that's coming up, and we are going to be reading the script for an unreleased movie based on the X-Men animated series. I will be playing Avalanche, so that will be very interesting.
That'll be interesting, yeah. I'm not on that, but I believe I'm going to be joining them for the Wolverine at some time in the future.
That's the 2012 one?
Yeah, that's the not sucky Wolverine movie. Well, there's two that weren't that sucky. This is the one that's in Japan. Yeah. So it's
one's pretty decent from what I remember.
It's a tight movie. Yeah. I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's very X-Men heavy, but it's still good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that terrible version of Deadpool in it. So
yeah, Jesus. Think about the fact that Ryan Reynolds back-to-back was in that and then Green Lantern.
Yeah. It's amazing that he even still has a career.
Yeah.
And he's very talented. Don't get me wrong.
He's very talented man, but yeah.
Man, he had a couple stinkers in a row there.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, I think that's about it. So
well, and of course the Star Trek stuff.
Oh yes, of course. The
Live Long and podcast as well. So we do a lot of stuff there, Eamon, as you know. We do we have the Locutors of Trek, which is a long-running podcast. They do a lot of scientific discussions. They have some fantastic guests on there. So that's always good. And then I'm part of the Rewatch series, which we're going to be having a new series rewatch soon. Won't tell you what it is yet, but we're going to be working on that shortly. So we'll be hitting a new series. I'll just give you a hint. It isn't Star Trek related. But
yes, I do know what this is.
You know what it is, but we're not going to talk about it yet. I still got to get some of the promo stuff done. But yeah, no. So we have a good fun time there. So if you enjoy Star Trek, we got it.
All right.
So there you go.
Without that, I've been Eamon Mader,
and I'm Jody. So there you go. But thanks
and
for having me, Eamon.
As my father said, catch you on the flippeth side.
Flippeth.